Welcome, everyone, to episode 179. We're here with my favorite, the one and only, the Survey Jesus with a lowercase j, the Chupacabra. You are going to want to stay with us today. Stay with us. I said that twice. Okay.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
All right, so welcome everyone. Brandon, anything you want to say after I wasn't recording for the second time in my career? Go ahead.
To reiterate, it's just always great to be here talking with you on topics that I think are not common to the construction industry, and hoping to stretch out the way people think a little bit more about what it means to be a worker, a superintendent, a partner in a relationship, a husband, any of those things, and just provide some food for thought.
I love it. Well, today we're going to talk about emotional range. And if you know anything about the Chupacabra, Brandon Montero, you'll know that he has emotional range. I am emotional. So I think we have.
That counts.
Are you sympathy voting me or that counts? So I'm crazy and Brandon has emotional range. So just FYI, if you're ever reaching out to us, you're going to want to call him first anyway. So Brandon, I like to start out, and you know this because you're a big podcast jammer. What am I excited about in life? So I'm going to ask that question to you. One of the things that I'm excited about, not only is the Geoholics podcast that Brando and I were able to do, but we've got some really cool people reaching out for survey boot camps now. And the content Brandon just told me is outlined past the third module. And so that's going to go into recording. And also we're working on the tact planning courses, which will definitely be out by the end of January. So we're going to start to see a lot of really industry leading content. And I'm excited about that. And that's not a sales pitch. That's like literally what I'm excited about right now. So Brandon, kick it over to you. Hopefully I didn't just leave you breadcrumbs there.
Well, I am going to at least nibble one or two of the breadcrumbs. I'm really excited about the survey content as well, because as a surveyor, I have seen what I would say are alarming trends in the industry that move away from accuracy.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that are being done for the sake of speed or to keep costs down. And I just want to say that it's my sincere belief that with adequate training, best practices can always be accomplished at speed that's acceptable to the budget. So there are things that I want to promote there. And along with that, much of the thinking, thought process that makes people forward moving, conscientious, and able to work well with a team, et cetera. I want to push all of that stuff into the survey industry as well, and just make sure that every single person, from the newest person on the crew, trainee, to persons in the office, assistant managers, really get on board with the way each other think and work together cohesively as a team, doing the best that they can.
I love that.
Also, to deviate from your breadcrumbs to personal stuff, because I like to do if it's really work-life balance, then shouldn't this be about life too? I am excited about my relationship, always super priority to me in my life. Couldn't be happier there. And I feel like it's because I have a partner who not only gives 100%, and you know how I feel about 100%. Yeah. If you have ever met me even once for 30 seconds,
you are 100%.
And who understands, I think, radical vulnerability. And that's probably something that I would like to talk about over the course of today and discussing emotional range as well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to kick it over to you. One quick, I got to do two or three, or I get to do a couple of things here because I'm not a victim. And I do want to say one little analogy that came to my mind. I get, and you get emails all day of different technologies. And I even got a LinkedIn ad that said robotic total stations and GPS will get rid of the need for any of the back to basics surveying techniques. It said, you literally don't have to waste your time with the old school techniques. Excuse me. And I saw that LinkedIn post and I was offended. Like my soul was offended. I went in straight into victim mode because I'm like, what idiot moof milking SOB posted this stupid post on a LinkedIn page saying we don't need the back to basics stuff. It was obviously some salesman that didn't know his head from a rock. And just one quick thought, the analogy that came to my mind is like, let's say you have a really good cohesive family. They eat dinner together. They're vulnerable. They're a good family. They've debt stacked. They're good with money. They earn money. They're cohesive. They're a good family. You know what I mean? Built on back to basics foundations. And then that saying that we got a robotic total station or GPS or this new software that's going to fix everything, and we don't need the back to basics would be like saying, oh, we just gave that family a computer and some cell phones. That's going to take care of everything that they've ever needed to be a family, right? And all of the basics, and they're going to be just as cohesive as a family, and they can ignore everything that got them to where they came. Like, here's a cell phone, son or daughter. This will fix all your problems. Here's a Tesla, wife. Like, this will fix everything for you. That's just stupid. What made the family great was forgiveness and kindness and vulnerability, like you said, and emotional range and debt stacking and being responsible with money and like cleaning and, and I feel like when the industry and these stupid, and I want people to be mad at me or love me for saying that, stupid people in the industry are like, hey, go get that technology. It'll solve your problems. Get rid of the back to basics. I just want to scream, Brandon. Like, I'm done. I'm done with these idiots out there. What do you want to say?
Hey, I want to say it makes me think of like the latest and greatest diet or the latest and greatest, self-help routine or something like that. There's probably some really great aspects to it, and there's probably portions of it that work, but no latest and greatest anything undoes years of research or years of fact stacked on fact or years of results. It just doesn't. Yeah. So at best, it could work alongside those things. But there's no reason to shed what works and can be made to work perfectly just for something new and flashy. Another thing I would like to say, and I hope that this is not an anti-sponsorship type of message, because I certainly don't mean that. But hey, vendors want to sell stuff sometimes, and when they can sell you a $50,000 total station instead of a $7,000 total station, they're going to do it. And when I was just writing up a little something today about looking at the actual specifications portion of your instrumentation, and what it's actually telling you there about capabilities. And then, of course, how to work around those capabilities with best practices. Why are we buying all of this fancy stuff sometimes? Or if you're not going to lay it out robotically and, by radial layout, and you're going to do something a conventional method, why would you need an instrument that does much more than great conventional work?
Yeah. Yeah. It would be
those tasks.
I agree. It'd be like taking my Tesla into the grocery store, down the aisles in the grocery store. It's like, hey, I like this fancy piece of technology, but it doesn't even fit the space and it doesn't fit the moment, right? You know what I mean? Like, we need to adapt it. When I go to the grocery store, I'm driving my Tesla. One of these days, I don't have one, and then I switch into my shopping cart, right? When I'm on the project, I'm going to lay out everything and check everything I can with a robotic. I'm going to jam out. And then sometimes I just need to turn 90s, right? Like, we need to apply it. And I totally get you. But so one quick thing, we get good feedback from people. This is something that came in today. He said, what's up, my man? My name is, and I'm not going to tell you what his name is. I've heard of you but never met you. Listen to your podcast, and they're super awesome, positive, and uplifting. So really appreciated that comment. You know who you are, who sent that, and I appreciate you. These are paydays when we get good feedback from you. So, Brandon, do you want to introduce our topic and take it away? I'm sure everyone's excited to hear you.
The topic is emotional range, and I feel like the concept of emotions, or just using the word emotions, is something that is typically viewed as a weakness by our current culture. And I'll venture as far as to say by men specifically, sometimes maybe in the construction industry, even more specifically. But how many times have you heard the concept of like, he did what it takes, or they really had what it takes, or they did what was necessary?
Mm-hmm.
When you hear phrases like that, you immediately think of mental toughness. And so I wanted to, challenge where your thoughts go when you hear something like that. Well, what is mental toughness, or what it takes? So if you think about what it takes in business, well, you need to be able to have a vulnerable conversation with someone.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to be direct. You need to have empathy. You need to have the patience that it takes to understand someone's learning style. You need to have the toughness that it takes to hold the line, the toughness to fire someone, send someone home if necessary. You need to be able to exemplify vulnerability yourself for the people that are maybe learning what it means to do that, especially when working with a team.
Yep.
So when you think about what it takes, it's really a wide range. It's everything from hardness to softness, from toughness to weakness, and everything in between, wherever vulnerability falls on that scale, wherever empathy falls on that scale, wherever, soberly sending someone home because they need to falls on that scale.
Yeah.
But even doing that with empathy. So what it takes is really a wide range of things. Instead of just looking at it as like, just be firm, apply firmness, in every way. I know you have some thoughts about like the old school superintendent, or what we think of when we have that old school superintendent in mind. Do you want to, could you talk about a little bit about what that guy looks like to you?
Well, yeah. And I was listening, so I apologize if my thoughts aren't fully put together here, but, I really feel, here's something that I've told people over the last probably 8 years, is that it takes courage to come talk to somebody when you're calm. And that might seem way out in left field, Brandon, but excuse me. If I had to go talk to another man or a woman, a colleague in the construction industry, and I'm upset about something, it takes 10 times, well, maybe not 10, but twice as much courage for me to go do that calmly and to square my shoulders and go do that than if I was using my emotions as a crutch. Meaning, for me, if I let myself get all mad and throwing down hard hats and I'm incensed, as long as the other person isn't big enough to whoop me, or there's some kind of barriers there, it's easier for me to go have a hard yelling at somebody conversation when I'm wrapped in emotions. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's just true for me. But I've always said, hey, it takes real courage to go talk to somebody. So when I look at the spectrum here, and I look at a superintendent that isn't speaking up, or a field engineer that isn't speaking up, or whoever on the project site, the step above that is say something, but use your emotions, right? But the step above that is what I think you're describing, is being able to have the emotional range to show up where you need to show up, regardless of your emotions. I really appreciated the time when you said, I'm sorry, I've got a little sniffle. I really appreciated the time, and I'll always remember it when you said, we train them to perform at a high level, regardless of their level of comfort. And I would actually say, we show them how to perform at a high level, regardless of their level of emotion or fear or discomfort or whatever, right? And So I feel like what you're saying is, or let me just answer your question directly. When I think of the old salty superintendents, I feel like they had one tool. They had a hammer in their bag. That's it. Their hammer was, I'm going to get pissed off, I'm going to yell, I'm going to throw a hard hat, and I'm going to boss people around and take control. And that's what they used to say was, I'm going to get it done. I had what it takes. But really, if he really had what it takes, and I'm just going to say then he would have had more tools in the tool belt. He would have had the hammer of, I'm going to be rough right now, or the pliers of, I'm going to have a direct conversation calmly, or the tape measure of, I'm using little analogies here, of consequences, just authoritative consequences, or I've got my string line of empathy here. Like if we have, like you said, empathy, transparency, authoritativeness, consequences, all of these things in our tool belt, I feel like you dispatch me out to work, I can do more because I got more stuff in my tool belt. That gives me range. And if I've got a tool belt, man, I really saved this. That's awesome. So if I got my tool belt, if I'm an electrician, I'm going to, if I was smart enough to be an electrician, why do I not also have a tool belt full of mini tools for emotional things? That's what I think. Did I tank that? Or did I?
Yeah, 100%. And the only... Did you say mini tools?
No, I didn't say many tools. I had said manly tools. I think you misheard me. That was a lie. That was a bold-faced lie. I have no idea what I said.
I would say, all I would say about that is that, maybe we think about, okay, like a finished carpenter, he's going to pull out a little, V-shaped chisel or something to do some fancy little something or other. Yes, and that might be the beauty of something, but sometimes it's our emotional capacity to handle a problem employee, a conflict, an emergency, without going straight into our one tool of anger or yelling or whatever it is, but to I guess absorb that because you have the range or the capacity, and so sometimes it's those things that might have the most impact, rather than being like the little finesse tools. Like maybe it's the most impact there. That made me think of the analogy that I made on the Geoholics podcast, which is excellent. If you are in the survey layout world, you would certainly enjoy it. Civil engineering world, holy moly. Those guys are great. I talked about something a little bit there, but I want to go a little bit further into the concept. So when I'm talking about, absorbing something into the range of your capacity. So if you think about a small, like a water balloon,
okay,
a really small balloon, it's going to accept a small amount of water before it's at its maximum capacity. And when it's approaching that, you're going to see it stretching out. It's becoming thin. You can actually see the water through it. And then, before you know it, because its capacity is so small, it just pops. Or maybe right before it pops, you're like, wow, everyone can see that any additional stress on this thing, and it's a goner. Is it possible that anyone has ever viewed us in that way, that they can just look at us and tell that if you added another drop to this person's plate or another, mishap on the project site, that they will literally be overwhelmed, they'll burst, and they'll cease to exist? Versus what if you just had a larger capacity or a larger range? Yeah. So you could accept that same amount of fluid, as the small balloon that literally burst, and it wouldn't even change your shape. It would you could just absorb it. You would contain it, and there would be no issue. And the amount of things that you could handle, that you could take on, that you could literally absorb into yourself would be so much more. And so what I wanted to define is, what is it that gives us that range or that capacity? So like, we're talking about emotions, and you said you're emotional. okay, and that's also, that maybe is you sympathy voting yourself because we know better, and I have personally seen the way that you work with project teams.
I was just teasing.
This is a shameless plug for Jason Schroeder. But what I want to say about that is we're not just talking about emotional range equals showing emotions or having emotions or being pushed right to an emotion. It means that you have the range to select the appropriate emotional response to anything that affects you.
Yeah. Amen.
Appropriate. And when I say appropriate, I mean the one that has what it takes to handle that situation.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about small capacity, somebody who is inflexible, someone who only goes as far as their own personal experience. They don't know that anything exists outside of their own view of what's right. Maybe they're basing how they respond to everything just on their own personal concepts and prejudices.
Yep.
Or what could give us or help us develop a large capacity or expand our emotional range? Well, a variety of life experience, personal work that we put in on ourselves, whether that's through audiobooks, through the way that we deal with others, through therapy. I mean, there are a million different ways to do personal work. Failing forward, I know we talk about that a lot, and spending time on the skinny branches. So maybe taking those chances, relying on yourself and seeing how that works out for you. When portions of that don't work out, learning from it and moving forward. We can learn from the experience of others, learning to develop empathy for others. Stewardship is an amazing way to build a lot of those things, empathy for others, vulnerability, so many things. Can you think of some other ways to develop that capacity?
Yeah, and mine might be right on target or maybe not right on target, but I was, when I said I'm emotional up until now, right? I've had days in my past where it's just all emotions, right? And I can remember practicing from church forgiveness. That increased my emotional range. I can remember increasing my emotional range for charity from religious texts. I can remember reading the book Leadership and Self-Deception and gaining better emotional range by just focusing on me and doing the right thing and not allowing myself to get triggered by somebody else, right? I learned emotional range techniques in How to Win Friends and Influence People. When I went to Power Communication, you and I have both been to Power Communication with Rapport Leadership International. I now know in certain situations, I can pull out the rapport tool. It's not just the name tool, but like the how do I build rapport with you when I'm speaking to you, right? So like, and just a little tidbit for anybody watching, if Brandon's tilting his head, I would tilt my head. His shoulders are very forward like this, I would do that. I would have the same tone or speed, you know what I mean? I can pull that tool out to emotionally connect with you, right? So I feel like Power Communication is an example of that. I feel like when I went to Tony Robbins and got where he pushed me out and made my balloon, so big, and also in Leadership Breakthrough 1 and at Rapport, expanded that balloon so much to where now when I come back, there aren't situations that I've dealt with that are going to pop my balloon because my vessel is larger. My capacity, I hit the microphone, sorry. My capacity is larger. And so I don't know if these were exactly or not exactly the examples that you were looking for, but I would say for me, it has been every time that I've intentionally practiced where I learned something, somebody says, here's what forgiveness looks like. And then something happens and I say, I want to go murder that SOB. And instead I'm like, oh, I just learned that. Here's an opportunity for me to practice this and to make it to where I'm used to using this tool because it's appropriate in this situation. And I also feel like it might be appropriate in the future. So for me, it's learning, intentionally practicing, and then knowing that those are always at my within my reach to bring forward and recall when I need them. I don't know. How did I do? Close or?
Yeah, no, that's excellent, and I appreciate, of course, that you brought situations from life, from your relationship, from faith into it, because all of those things really do provide us opportunities to grow, for sure. I can say the same thing. You know, I've had some of those circumstances where I was at work and confronted with what I would say is a really disrespectful, type of speech from someone. I was in front of someone else that I was training within my own department. So that was, in my mind, a bad look for the company, a bad example to this guy that I was training, all of these things. And I remember feeling in my head that I felt like I could just kind of pick this person up and just toss them out the windows. They've got a lot of glass windows, and it just seemed really easy. It seemed like the easiest solution. But then I also thought, why is he having this experience with me? Is there any grain of truth to what he has said that I could take from it and provide a better experience for work to flow because I'm at work? Yeah, there probably is. I could have a conflict with this guy all day.
Yeah.
Or I could think about what would make workflow better. Is there a message that's happening here? And I'm not advocating like, hey, you should let people walk all over you. No. And there are separate, vulnerable, and peaceful conversations that can be had to address that as well. But I also want to say in those situations, are you like, yeah, is anger a tool in my toolbox? Sure it is. But it's probably really dusty.
Yeah. And is it appropriate to the situation?
Yeah. And it's not appropriate to the situation. So what would I do with that? What good would it do me? I would perform shoddy work with that tool. There's a better one. I'm going to think about what it is and use it.
I agree. And I hope this is an appropriate example. I don't know if anybody's ever watched the movie Schindler's List, but I remember there was a point there where one of the concentration camp, I don't know, directors, but the head guy is shooting innocent people, which is atrocious, by the way. I just want to be clear. I'm not making light of concentration camps, but in the movie, Schindler said, you know what real power is? Real power is when you have the power to do that, but you choose not to, and you give mercy. And then there's a scene there where the director in the concentration camp thinks about it, pardons somebody one day, but then just goes back to his old habits and starts shooting people again, right? Anybody can, not to be irreverent, but anybody can go shoot somebody. Anybody can go throw a hard hat. Anybody can go like throw that guy out the window, but only the powerful can keep their manure reined in, in the moment, be in not only emotionally control of themselves, but over the situation, be above it, and then make decisions that win the war without fighting. And that's what came to me when you were talking. And I think that's pretty profound. And I like sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, I liked what you were saying there. You use the term in control of, and I was just thinking to myself, like, how could you be in control of, a delicate situation if you didn't understand how to be delicate? How could you be in control of a situation that had people exploding in anger in your face if you yourself weren't in control of your own anger? So just again, going back to, do you have all of those tools in your toolbox? Do you know how to use them to the point of effectiveness? And, or are you literally happy to be like an emotional one-trick pony that just pulls out that hammer every time because it's all you've got, and you're going to just close your eyes and swing and hope that you accomplish something?
Yeah. And do you mind if I'm sure people are listening being like, Jason Less, Brandon Moore. But I'm just loving this content so much. That wasn't a sympathy vote. We get the best numbers when you're on, Brandon. So, dang it, what was I going to say?
I think it's because you can hear how nice my beard looks. That's all. It's not really. It's audio aesthetics is what it is.
That's 100% true. Well, while I'm thinking about what I was going to say there, the biggest thing that keeps coming to my mind, probably why I can't remember it, is that each of these things are opportunities. Oh, here was my analogy. I'm probably going to offend some people because I'm a defender of marriage. Like I like marriage. I believe in the institution. I'll always defend marriage. And that in no way, shape, or form takes away my tolerance and acceptance of people who, which is quite popular in Europe, actually, never getting married, being life partners, or different types of relationships, or people that like to date, or whatever their circumstances are. So just because I'm a fan of marriage doesn't mean that I discount anything else. But this is my example. If somebody said, I don't like marriage, that's fine. But everyone can have their opinion. But I heard one time somebody say, marriage isn't good because you fight all the time. It's not good because you fight all the time. Like, it's just going to cause conflict. And I flipped it on its head, and I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Hold on. If you think about it, whether you're married or in a relationship or have a dog or you're just close to your extended family or whatever, being alone is easy. I mean, if you can stand it, being alone is easy. You don't have any conflict, and you don't have to gain the tools for emotional range. Being married and having children is hard, but by virtue of, by nature of that being hard, you are forced to gain emotional range, or, obviously there's divorce and other things that are available. Sometimes, like you and I've talked about in the past, people aren't compatible, and so that's not a cop-out. That's just what it is. But if you are compatible and if you are headed in the same direction, and you and I have talked about this, then the amount of effort that it will take to get through that conflict, right, and get past those things and develop an emotional range to get past those points of conflict, marriage or a partnership or a girlfriend or whatever is an ideal, as long as you're heading the same direction, is an ideal scenario, as long as you're doing it right and learning and adapting and gaining these tools. Because if you're alone, there's no trial, there's no need, there's no, necessity is the mother of invention. If I'm holed up in my shed all the time and I never go out, where am I learning the emotional range to deal with other humans, right? If I'm always behind my computer and I'm not socializing with people at work, where am I being forced to learn emotional range, right? And so to me, I would say that if you're in a crappy situation, and this is the moment I'd like to bring everyone back to based on what you said, if your boss just treated you like crap, either you're eternally stuck with it or you have to quit, or it's an opportunity for you to get a little education and go have a candid conversation and flex those emotional range muscles, right? You and your girl or your boy just got in an argument. You can run away and say, we're done, send them a text, or that's an opportunity to go, like you say, and I loved when you coached me on this, Brandon, to connect, to discuss each other's positive intentions, to maybe touch arm to arm or something like that, to pull the car over and to really work through that problem and get some more emotional range. And we could just keep going through example. So everything's either an impossible, eternal, like horrible situation, or if we flip the script and get into a different mindset, it could be an opportunity to grab one of those other tools, to learn how to use that tool and get more emotional range. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I really liked what you said there, because we've used the example of anger or the one tool a lot of times, but another possible recourse is to just kind of disappear, to, things aren't going the way you want or how you wanted them to go, you're not hearing what you want to hear. And so you just kind of disappear inside yourself, instead of continuing to show up in the situation, because you realize that you don't have the tools to deal with the current situation. And so you disappear, or you hide. And I want to say that sometimes the use of the wrong tool, like anger, or disappearing, it's really just a form of escapism. It's you running up the white flag and saying, I am not capable of him. I do not have what it takes. And so I'm going to default to the wrong tool because I don't know any better. Or I don't believe in myself. I need to disappear right now. They're both escapism.
Yeah. The image that came to my mind was when that guy, I don't know if you saw it. It's kind of a funny little GIF or GIF. I don't know what that's called, but anyway, he had a post pound, much debated the post pounder, and he's using it like a hammer on top of it, and not like, it's round, so he's not hitting it. He's struggling, and then some wiser person comes over and puts it on the actual post and says, "This is how you do it, right?" When we're in bad situations and we don't know what to do, we need to ask for help, right? Or get some skills, or just stop and think about it for a minute, right? Like, get clarity. I love the comment where Brene Brown says it, leadership and self-deception says it, you say it. What is really going on in this situation? Let's get clarity and work from there. But if we're in the heat of it and we're like, holding that post pounder on the side and just frustrated and nothing's working, and we just say doing that, we never pause for a minute, we don't break that cycle, we're just going to keep in that cycle. We're not going to win. So I don't know. That's the image that came to my mind when you were talking. Have you ever seen that, by the way?
No, I haven't.
I'm going to have to forward that to you. It's pretty stinking funny. I don't think it's made up. I think it's pretty real. Anyway, go ahead, boss.
You made the comment about, kind of watching and waiting to see what's really going on. And I would say, yes, take the time to see, or to break things down into like, why is this happening? What is, what's the real thing that I need to work on, et cetera, so that you can select the right tool. But what that doesn't mean is waiting to see what the environment brings to you, so that you have to react to that or be affected to that in like, and what I would say, I know we've talked at our boot camps about literally being your own environment. And it sounds like a funny thing to say, but you think about like what might be the environment on any particular job site. Maybe everyone's in a hurry, they're angry, the team's not jiving well, they're behind schedule, people are rushing. And well, when you come to that job site, you don't have to just be that. You don't have to fall into that thinking. You don't have to, inappropriately rush things. You can show up as your own calm and collected environment, and you brought into the environment the tools and the things that you need to be successful, and that's the environment. Everything else is literally just happening around it.
Yeah. And
so I think of that, for myself or for you. I sincerely believe that if you drop me on a project on an empty lot of land with a plan set, and it'd be nice if I could have Simple 3D and a laptop. A cell phone would be cool too, so I could hook up to the internet and pull my license. What couldn't I do? I don't know what I couldn't do, because I feel like I am an environment that shows up and it has all the tools that are necessary to perform work and for things to run smoothly. You can, if you think you're that professionally, awesome. Could you be that emotionally too? And how much would that add to your professionalism? Yeah. So could you just show up and you're like, whatever is going on out here, it really doesn't matter what's in this plan set. I have it. And so that I can see what it is. And so that I can look and figure out what's necessary. So that I can then select the right tool. So that I can then act appropriately with the right amount of pressure at the right time. And just show up as your own environment as far as the emotional environment of any project site. Hey, things are haywire everywhere. It doesn't mean that you have to be, or that you have to let that in to become that or to respond to that on any project site or with any person.
I agree. And I'm just going to shamelessly tell you what I believe. Those are the people that are going to get paid the most. Because you can put them in a situation where you have to terminate someone, discipline somebody take care of a sensitive HR issue, correct somebody, coach somebody, consult on the project site, really get everyone whatever it is, these thousands of things that would have to be done. You're going to send somebody with any tool that they need to go get it done. I mean, those are the people that are going to get the executive level positions, the manager positions, and if they're properly recognized, right? And I would say that those are the people that probably have a higher probability or likelihood to have a healthy relationship at home. And everybody that knows me knows that I love General Patton, and he didn't have the emotional range to be everything he could be. He was better than Dwight D. Eisenhower at military combat strategy, hands down. But Dwight D. Eisenhower was able to be the Supreme Allied Commander, a 5-star general, and then President of the United States because he had emotional range, because he had more tools in his tool belt, because he could win the war without fighting, because he could rally the allies, because he could temper his emotions to the situation. And that is a lesson to learn for all of us, and especially in construction. If you have a really good director, PM, super, surveyor, great. You're General Patton. You know more about survey than anyone else. Not you, but you know more about field engineering than anybody else. Great. Love it. Do you have the emotional range to win over the project team, to create collaboration, and to take the people with you? That's my question. Because if you don't, not you, Brandon, because you definitely do, but if whoever we're talking to, me or anybody else, if you don't, you're not going to go as far as you can. Because going alone, you're going to make it a couple miles. Going with the team, you can make it as far on that journey as you want. That's what I think. And you agree, Brandon. I can see it on your face.
Yes. We agree with each other, guys. This is a newsflash.
That's funny.
And I understand that, Patton had to sit on the bench for a while too, because of that lack of emotional range and because of some of the ways that he displayed that, or, threw his hard hat down on the ground, that just were literally at the wrong time for the wrong situation. He pulled out the same old tool and it just didn't work for him. And he had to sit on the sidelines for a while as a result. Let's see.
I don't know. This has been already so good.
Yeah.
If you're worried about taking it to the next level, you can close down whenever you want, because honestly, I've learned a lot here. This has been amazing. I'm committed to getting more emotional range, like just even talking to you about this. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I think that's super important. And one thing that I would say, without us really having to get into it too much, is tying it back to the personal life. And, just like you mentioned in your own marriage, what it takes in relationships. And yes, sometimes the environment might be, you come home to, crying children, and, someone has made a mess and there's a leak in the roof, and, there's other things that are, hey, that's just the situation that's happening. Do you have what it takes in your emotional range toolbox to handle everything appropriately, efficiently, maybe with love? What it takes there? Is it empathy? Is it humility? Maybe, in fixing situations, if we ever have come off key ourselves, sincerity, setting strong boundaries and holding them, keeping your word, vulnerability in front of your partner. What are those tools? And could you say that you have enough of them to show up as a sustained environment when you get home, and in that environment, be what you want to be?
Yeah.
Be the type of person you want to be, and maintain that, because you have the tools, and, the ups and downs of daily life are not able to affect your environment.
And if you don't mind me adding to that, if you fail once or twice, are you going to, and gosh, it's hard for me to look at you and talk. I'm talking to the people at the other end, and to the part of me that's being wimpy. Are you going to fail a couple times and give up and say it's too hard? Or are you going to be like, can try, not try. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to give it heck, because, when I imagine that closed off, walled off, gruff, not going to let you in person, guy or gal, we've seen them all over. There was a point, I'm assuming, where they thought, it's not worth it to keep, I'm going to say the word trying because they said it, I didn't say it. There's a point at which I believe they said, this isn't worth it. I'm done. I'm done doing this. I'm not putting myself out there anymore. And then the emotional walls come up, right? And, to your point, if there's an abusive relationship, you might need to get out. But there are ways to do that are appropriate, right? If there's a situation where you're not being treated properly, handle it with authoritative consequences. I can't work here if you're going to treat me like that, right? So I don't want to discount the fact that there are like real situations that we need to get out of, especially for women and children or men who are in situations of abuse and they feel like they have to stay. They need to get out, right? And for those situations that belong or that are in the, hey, you need to have some grit category, I think it's key that we don't give up. When, Katie and I have been married, I'm going to get this right. In February, we'll be married 18 years. And that doesn't sound like a long time. But if we would have given up, we wouldn't be married, right? We just kept saying, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And then after 12, 14 years of living with a nightmare husband, like I flipped the script and became kind of a good guy, we stuck with it. And I now have more emotional range. And so my question to everyone else, are you going to hear this podcast and then say, oh, I'm going to go try that. Oh, I failed. I'm going to try that. Oh, I failed. I'm going to try that. Oh, now I'm done. Right. Or are you going to just keep at it and be persistent enough to continue practicing with these tools? Because just like with a hammer or a chisel or a pen, it's going to maybe even take years to get you good with those tools. And so my message is keep going, because the salty, closed off, can't deal with emotions people out there in the world at one point or another gave up and they stopped trying.
You mentioned, we'll have to talk about this at a later date. And we have a couple later date ideas out there. You talked to me once about marriage or relationship partners and trajectory. And our discussion was about trajectory in a relationship versus, sometimes we see what we like in a partner, or maybe even in a job, in a financial offer from an employer, from, something flashy about a partner, their laugh, their this, their, other different things where we're like, I like this, versus trajectory and what that means. And I hope we get to talk about that maybe some other time.
Okay.
Because I felt like you dropped a solid 10 of bricks on me, and that's some worthwhile info.
Do you want me to say the sentence or leave them wanting more?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So here was what, and Brandon gives me nuggets all the time. So me getting to do one or two doesn't hurt the environment here.
Yeah,
so
nuggets for me, bricks for Jason, guys. You heard it here.
I didn't mean that. So you actually did say that. I mean bricks from Brandon. I get masonry. I get masonry, but I get dead men from Brandon. Big concrete 3x3 blocks. But I said that, Tony Robbins once said, when you hire, the question really is, are they a long-term cultural fit? It's not, do they have the skills? Are they going to do this? Are they a long-term cultural fit? And then for relationships, we were talking about relationships, and I was like, any amount of, unless it's abuse, but any amount of trying and correcting and reconciliation or forgiveness is worth the trip, as long as you and your spouse or your partner are heading in the same direction towards the same goal, same trajectory, right? But any sacrifice or conflict there for two people that are heading in different directions is a waste of time. And so that might be a nice little guide until we get to that next podcast of, if you're wondering, is it time to cut ties? And don't make life decisions and then sue us. I have insurance, by the way, in case anybody wants, is thinking about suing. I have a lawyer, and I just kidding. But like, don't go make rational life decisions. But it might be a nice thing to say, whether you leave the situation or stay with it and keep attempting to gain more emotional range, really, in my mind, depends on, are you headed in the same direction? Are you in that company headed in the same direction? Are you and that partner headed in the same direction? Are you in that religious organization headed in the same direction? And if the answer is no, you're probably not a fit. But if the answer is yes, there's a lot of forgiveness and back and forth that could take place there, with a lot of charity and kindness, as you develop enough emotional range to be with that partner, to be with that company, and to be with those organizations. And that's kind of what he and I were talking about, which we can cover at a later date. So I'm super excited about that. So whenever you're ready, Brandon, to close, I do want to see if you can leave. We can say, Brandon Montero said, thus saith Brandon Montero. This is the challenge, leaving everybody in the podcast. So if they're curious about how to implement anything from today, they at least have your parting words. So however you want to close this out, boss. Or we can keep going for another hour. It's up to you.
No, let's get in the direction of the closeout and see how we do.
I love it. Let's get on the same trajectory.
Yes. So I guess the kind of the closing thought for me, and this is something that I have thought about in my life, and even thought about who do I know in my life that's on this trajectory, because it's a big deal to me. And I would imagine that many people would think that it is important, but maybe not support that trajectory with efforts. People look at the concept of deciding to be happy as if that meant that you were wearing some kind of special, like, blinders. You've heard ignorance is bliss or other things. If we're talking about the concept of being your own environment, and within that environment, you act and feel as you dictate, and you select the proper tools, etc. Could you literally go about your life, your relationship, your workday, your time spent on the job site, your commute, and decide that you were going to be happy? And happiness is one of the emotional range tools that you pull out of your tool bag and you use on a regular basis. I think that the answer is yes. I think that deciding to and being happy is a component of developing emotional range, understanding an emotion, and then choosing to exercise that emotion, just like anything else. Doesn't have to be changed, affected by your surroundings. Yes, there's ups and downs, but could you go back to the set point of happiness, and that's your environment? Yeah. Those are the people that I love to be around. Yep. Those are the people that I would relationship for the rest of my life. Those are the types of employers or project teams that I would love to work with and for. And so, that's my parting note. Amongst the tools of emotional capacity is happiness, and how often are you deciding to use that tool in your life on a daily basis?
And I would add that people that say money can't buy happiness are shopping in the wrong stores. That you can go get and research and read and be coached into new levels of achievement and success and knowledge. And so when Brandon and I say, go get these tools, we never said you had to chisel them out of stone yourself. What Brandon's talking about is there are trainings, there's knowledge, there are therapy clinics, there are coaches, there are friends, there are partners, there are spouses, there's online trainings, there are all of these resources and tools that you can bring into your environment because you can become your own environment. But we never said you had to chisel it out of stone. We never said you had to create it from nothing. You very much should pull in and steal the best of, not steal, appreciate the best in life. And if you need something, and if you find out, I keep grabbing for this tool and it's not there, then go get it. Go figure it out. There are a million people that can help you with it. And Brandon is spot on. So please figure it out and go get the help you need, get the resources, because I would venture to, I'm just going to say it that way. For everything you need, there's a tool out there. And I'm not diminishing the somewhat forever effects of abuse, psychological trauma, or things like that. Let's bring it back into the you and me. I don't have emotional trauma. I don't have psychological abuse. I don't have clinical issues. For the me's of the world, every tool you need is out there. Now, there might be others that are in different circumstances, but if you're listening to this podcast, every tool you need in your circumstances can be found somewhere. Don't give up hope. Go get it. So, Brandon, any closing sentences? And then we'll just say 1, 2, 3, on we go.
Sorry, I'm so bad at the shutdown, Jason. I apologize.
No,
closing sentence.
No, say what you're going to say.
If you're thinking like, oh well, but I'm just not like that. I'm just not emotional. I don't know how to be emotional. I don't know how to, how to this. I don't know how to be close to people. I don't know how to, I'm not like that. Well, you're not the manager right now either, or you're not the director right now, or you're not, making $200,000 a year right now. But do you want to? Are you going to move in that direction? Are you going to make efforts in that direction and do your darndest to get there? Or are you just going to be like, well, I can't be the manager. I'm the worker, Yeah. Of course you can. If you apply yourself towards it. And there are a myriad of ways to do it. And you don't have to have a tool to go get the tool and then learn how to use it. In fact, of course you don't, because you have to go get it and then you have to learn how to use it. One tiny, tiny thing I'm going to say from the if you want to understand empathy and you're just like, man, I'm just not an empathetic person. Start somewhere small. I know one of the early books that I read was, I think it's Reading and Interpreting or Reading and Understanding Body Language. Just understand a person first. Maybe you don't need to understand their emotions necessarily or why they have them, but could you look at them and be like, I think I actually get what emotion this person has right now. They're not listening. They're interested. They're feeling intimidated. They're feeling confident. You could just factually, as if you were looking at a picture book, look at a person and be like, this person has these emotions based on a picture that I have in my head.
Yeah.
So hey, you don't have to be, Mr. or Mrs. Touchy-feely to start down this path. You just need to do the work.
Yeah. And I would add to that, and this isn't a competition, but it's so beautiful. I want to make sure there's frosting on that cake. If you can add to what you just said, which I hadn't thought of, which is beautiful. If you can add these two thoughts, number one, that person is probably doing their best. And then the second thought is, if they're doing something wrong, they may lack the skills to do it better. Then as we analyze the situation, we can stay a little bit emotionally detached, assume the positive intent, and probably end up with some better answers.
Not that this is any type of a competition, as you mentioned, but sometimes cakes have, multiple tiers, and there's frosting, and then there's even a topper on it. Well, I was just thinking, the things that you might tell yourself, like you just said, a really important one could also be when it comes to conflict, or when you don't understand someone or where they've gone with the way that they respond to you. The phrase, is it possible that this isn't about me?
Yeah.
it's very possible that a person is reacting some way because that's their set of capabilities right now. And it's the first tool that they grabbed in their toolbox. And it has nothing to do with you, how strongly or poorly that they've reacted emotionally.
Amen.
It might just be how they are and what they have right now. And to think about that question as well. Is it possible that this isn't about me?
Amen. Okay. Well, so that I don't try and say something else, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. On we go.
On we go.
Man, I love working with you.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.